Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. Convicted sex cult leader Keith Raniere ordered to pay millions to his victims. The money to pay for all past and future surgeries for the 21 women he branded as slaves. And Harvey Weinstein's defense wants 3 of the 11 charges against him in Los Angeles dropped. His accusers saying, not so fast.
This is a message that it will catch up with you.
Plus, a major hearing in the Ahmaud Arbery case as 3 men accused of boxing in and shooting him to death prepare their case. We break down what the jury may and may not hear in the upcoming Georgia jogger murder trial. And the ex-girlfriend of an accused fake Uber driver putting the pieces together. What she says she saw in his car after prosecutors say he stabbed college student Samantha Josephson to death over 30 times.
The blood she's missing, that's his car.
Law and Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmeyer along with Terry Austin. A sex cult leader is ordered to pay more than $3 million in restitution to his victims. Many he branded his initials into their skin. A New York District Court judge making the ruling in a sentencing statement for Keith Raniere filed in court Wednesday. The judge saying Reniere will have to pay for all past and future surgeries for the 21 women he branded as slaves. Reniere was a leader of the group NXIVM. He was convicted in 2019 of sex trafficking and racketeering. The order will allow some of those women to get rid of their scars. The judge, writing this in his sentencing statement, quote, "The court finds that any lower-ranking DOS slave whose commitment to DOS was secured by collateral and who performed uncompensated labor or services at the behest of a DOS master is a victim of the forced labor conspiracy offense." I spoke with survivor Jessica Joan earlier this month about her decision to blow the whistle on the case.
To say the words that needed to be said, I think there's a lot of legal jargon and candy coating. That diminishes the ugliness and the truth of what these, what these counts are, what the abuse. It's like, if you say rape, molestation, abandonment, like I can say these things because they don't have ownership over me. I've transmuted those things. I am empowered in spite of those things. And because of those things that happen, I am who I am.
Now, Terry, monetary restitution in criminal cases does come up from time to time. What do you think of the amount and the reasoning behind it here?
Brian, I think the amount makes complete sense. It's a little bit higher than the restitution I've seen in other cases, but this was a very difficult case, and I think it was well-deserved. Restitution is for making the individual accountable for the crime, and it's also to pay for expenses associated with the victim. Clearly here, this was sex trafficking, the branding, and making sure that these individuals can get rid of the scars, I think makes complete sense.
Now, Terry, that takes care of the physical scars. What do you think about getting rid of the mental scars as well? Could that be on the table?
Absolutely. I think that some of this money should be used for that. When you think about it, being a sex slave, that is brainwashing, and you're going to have scars, both physical and mental. So I think that going to therapy should definitely be included in this restitution package.
We absolutely hope that those victims can take care of both of their scars, those we can see and those we can't. Thank you, Terry. Disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein hopes some of the sexual assault charges filed against him in Los Angeles will be thrown out. Law and Crime's Anjanette Levy is here with that and what one of his accusers is saying after seeing him in court in Los Angeles.
Brian, Harvey Weinstein faces 11 sexual assault charges in California. He's pleaded not guilty as his accusers watch this case incredibly closely.
Harvey Weinstein appeared in a Los Angeles courtroom, sitting in a wheelchair. You can barely see him behind his lawyers. His return to Tinseltown not for a splashy movie premiere, but to face sexual assault charges involving 5 women in separate encounters from 2004 through 2013. Weinstein's lawyers have asked that some of those charges be dismissed.
Well, we filed a demur to challenge 3 of the 11 counts on the grounds that they're barred by the statute of limitations. So I'm pretty confident the judge should grant that.
The allegations attorney Mark Worksman refers to involve 2 accusers in incidents in 2004, 2005, and 2010. Louise Godbold came forward in 2017 about an allegation of sexual assault against Weinstein years earlier.
I think for all of us for us, LA was the scene of the crime. It feels right that Harvey's being held accountable for the things that he did there.
Godbold is a silence breaker who now helps survivors of sexual trauma. She's following the Los Angeles case closely as she's become friends with many accusers.
I will be there. I'm going to be sure that I'm in Los Angeles to support them and to spend as much time as I can in the courtroom to give them any kind of moral support that I can.
Meanwhile, Weinstein's lawyers fought him being transferred to Los Angeles from New York, where he was serving a 23-year prison sentence for sexual assault. They cite his health problems, including spinal stenosis, which they say impairs his ability to walk.
And then you add the fact that he's in custody, and that's also deteriorating and demoralizing as well as physically debilitating.
Now, Harvey Weinstein's lawyers believe that the prosecutors miscalculated on the statute of limitations since they've been expanded a few times to allow sexual assault accusers to file charges in these types of cases. Harvey Weinstein will be back in court next week when his attorneys will argue for that motion to dismiss. Brian.
Thanks, Anjanette. Joining us today is criminal defense attorney Mike Correspondent. Now, Mike, is the statute of limitation argument going to be cut and dry, just calculating a few days, or is there something else to it?
I don't think it's going to be cut and dry. I think it's very complicated. Like I said, if I was good at math, I'd be a doctor and I wouldn't be an attorney. But this is very difficult in the calculations because, number one, is this has changed so many times. Now there's basically no statute of limitation in California. But prior to 2017, there's all kinds of numbers, and if it was within the original statute of limitations, then it carries over to no statute of limitations. It's going to be very difficult, and it's probably going to be a very open kind of argument because it's relatively a new law that they've done with the statute of limitations, and it's going to be difficult to pinpoint some of these exact times with these criminal acts allegedly occurred.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, at the very least, I've got 10 fingers and 10 toes to help you count, but with these shifting laws, I think it's going to be difficult for anyone. And Jeanette, is Louise Godbold going to testify in the Los Angeles trial of Harvey Weinstein?
She doesn't know yet, but she has offered to do so. She did the same in the New York case, but the judge in that case didn't allow her testimony because the allegations she made didn't really match up as closely with the allegations made by the accusers in that case. But she said she is willing to do it. So we'll have to wait and see whether or not the prosecutors in LA decide to call her.
All right, well, the recently extradited Harvey Weinstein will be facing charges in Los Angeles. We'll make sure to keep you up to date as that case progresses. Thank you both. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, an ex-girlfriend takes the stand to describe a defendant's car after prosecutors say a woman was stabbed to death inside, thinking it was her Uber ride. But first, the preliminary hearing in the trial of 3 men accused of killing a jogger in Georgia. What will the October trial look like? We break it down. Next. Welcome back. Sparks were flying in Georgia courtrooms as attorneys prepare for the highly anticipated trial of the men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery. Father and son Gregory and Travis McMichael are charged with murdering Arbery while he was out jogging last February. A third man, William Rody Bryan, is charged with boxing Arbery in while filming the incident. The defendants are claiming self-defense, saying Arbery was a burglar running through their neighborhood, and say Arbery's mental health records show his response was to get angry and aggressive.
There is, as I understand the state contention, that Mr. Arbery was justified in assaulting Travis McMichael as self-defense on his part, resisting an illegal arrest. It's essentially that he was justified in doing what he did. If the state is going to contend that Mr. Arbery was justified in stealing Mr. Bryant's car, or justified in yanking him out and throwing him on the side of the road, or justified in kidnapping or false imprisoning him, or justified in carjacking in the second degree, if they're going to contend that you can legally be justified in committing various property crimes under these circumstances, I think that's something we probably need to flesh out before we start trying the case.
That assertion was enough to get the prosecutor up out of her seat and say no. Arbery was trying to defend himself against a 5,000-pound weapon the defendant was using against him.
The defendant, Mr. Bryan, hit Mr. Arbery with his truck. That's why his palm print's on it. That's why his T-shirt fibers are on it. Because he assaulted him with a 5,000-pound lethal weapon known as a pickup truck. And yes, maybe Mr. Arbery did try and push off that truck after being hit with it. I get that the defense wants to characterize that some other way, as if Mr. Arbery was committing a crime after being assaulted with a 5,000-pound pickup truck, a lethal weapon that could have killed him, as Mr. Bryan pushed him off the road and into a ditch, which he, by the way, demonstrated to Agent Seacrest in his March 13th, 2020 video. It's offensive that this has been turned into the victim was trying to commit a carjacking. No, the state is not going to argue that he was entitled to commit a carjacking because Mr. Arbery was not committing a carjacking. He was not committing any felony. Mr. Arbery was trying to save his life from that man who was trying to hit him with a pickup truck.
Sparks flying indeed. Back with us is criminal defense attorney Mike Correspondent and Terry Austin. Now, as we all know, these pretrial motions will set the arena for how this trial will be argued. Terry, one of the things the defense wants to do is argue the repealing of the Citizens Arrest Act and that Arbery's killing was just that. How do you think that will fare at trial?
You know, what the defense is trying to say is that they were justified in the killing, in the shooting, in trying to stop Arbery. And they're trying to say that he was committing a crime, whether or not he was walking through this house that was under construction and he was running away, or whether or not he was trying to do a carjacking. They're trying to justify the fact that they responded the way they did. The prosecution is basically arguing, no, that's not the case here. And they're going to argue that there was no evidence of any crime at all whatsoever that Ahmaud Arbery was doing. So I think as far as the law is concerned, the citizens arrest law, it's under repeal now. The governor is about to sign the new law. And if so, it's going to totally change the way these cases are reviewed.
Yeah, and the interesting part is, it's one thing to say that Ahmaud Arbery did X. It's another thing to say, what did the McMichaels know at the time? And from what I understand, there was very little about Arbery's actions. Now, Mike, the defense wants Ahmaud Arbery's schizophrenia in the trial. Why do you think they want that, and will they be successful?
I don't really know why they want it, and I don't think it would be successful. I think it's pretty irrelevant based on what we know so far in this case, because it doesn't seem, as you pointed out, there was any knowledge on the defendant's part that this young man was suffering from a mental disease or not. So I don't see how it becomes relevant. I think the defense needs to really watch out here, because making these kind of arguments that don't really seem at this point in time to carry credibility could hurt them in the court's rulings.
Yeah, I mean, schizophrenia, ADHD, hunger, I don't care what you're suffering from at that point in time. You get chased by 3 men in 2 trucks and guns. I think our reactions are all going to be the same. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It seems that there's going to be another hearing in the Ahmaud Arbery case. We'll, of course, give you updates as that comes up, and anticipating a trial in this, the killing of a Georgia jogger on October 18th. Thank you for contributing. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, a legal victory in the fight against the opioid crisis, as big pharmaceutical companies are set to give a major payout to cities and states across the country. Plus, a police officer's heroic act, the quick actions he took to save the people inside this burning home. The body cam video you don't want to miss after the break. We're back. 3 drug distributors and Johnson & Johnson have agreed to pay out a total of $26 billion to end legal action related to the opioid crisis. A group of state attorney generals making the announcement Wednesday. So far, at least 10 states, including Texas, Florida, and Ohio, have agreed to the framework of the agreement, while many more are considering it. The $26 billion will come from J&J, McKesson, Cardinal Health, and Amerisource Bergen. The funds will go to prevention and treatment programs and support addiction education. Once the deal becomes final, thousands of local governments and states will have to drop lawsuits against the companies and will have to pledge they won't file any lawsuits in the future.
The money is, of course, a big part of this announcement, but we are also fundamentally changing this industry. The distributors will fund an independent clearinghouse to identify red flags so they can take action when there's a pill mill or when a community is drowning in prescription opioids. The distributors must prohibit the shipping of suspicious orders, report them to regulators, and terminate offending pharmacies, all subject to the review of an independent monitor. In addition, Johnson & Johnson will get out of the opioid business altogether and will not fund any organization that promotes opioids.
An upstate New York police officer is credited for saving the lives of 5 people whose house was destroyed by a fire.
I believe there's entrapment.
Jamestown police officer Mark Klonkin was on another call when he was diverted from a report of a house fire. This is what he saw when he got there.
Where are they? Who else? Let's go. You're okay.
Conklin helped 3 people out of the first floor and then discovered a woman and her child were on the second floor.
I'm getting people out right now. Hey, how many people are in there?
He directed both to jump into his arms.
Jump, I got you. Okay.
Incredibly, no one was seriously hurt. Notice the quick thinking and the disregard for his own safety, truly a hero. When we come back, blood, bleach, and the murder weapon. An ex-girlfriend tells all in the fake Uber murder trial of Nathaniel Rowland next. Welcome back. Prosecutors in South Carolina are showing a jury a mountain of evidence they say proves a young woman was murdered by a man after she got into his car thinking it was her Uber ride. 21-year-old Samantha Josephson was last seen on surveillance video around 2 a.m. in March 2019, getting into a black car after leaving a bar. Her body was found 14 hours later, stabbed 30 times. Police arrested Nathaniel Rowland later that day, charging him with kidnapping and murder. His ex-girlfriend says she noticed blood on his shoes and in his car, saw him cleaning the alleged murder weapon just hours after the victim died.
He looked shook.
And what do you mean by look shook?
Like he seen a ghost.
And how did you bang on that door?
Hard, like the police.
And what was he doing?
Cleaning the car, like scrubbing it with something.
Could you tell what he was cleaning it with?
It smelled like, the car smelled like chlorine. It was bleach, but it was so strong it smelled like chlorine.
Did you help him clean?
No.
Why not?
It's not my car.
And while you're driving, what is he doing?
Cleaning the car, still.
Still clean. With what?
Like some type of wipes.
Did you ask him about that?
Yeah.
What'd you ask him?
Where did you get them from? Why are you cleaning the car with wipes?
What'd he say?
Not my business.
And did you see him clean anything besides the interior of the car?
This little hunter's knife-like thing.
What, if anything, did you say to him?
Why would you drive that car with blood in it?
Any response?
No.
She says they went to pick up her baby and later noticed blood on the girl's shoes after she got out of the car. Days later, when she saw the murder on the news, she says she put it all together and went to the police.
I seen that she was missing, and then they showed the clip of his car.
And what did you think when you saw the car?
It all makes sense to me now.
What do you mean by that?
The blood, she's missing, that's his car.
How'd you know it was his car?
Because it had mud on the back by the fender.
On cross, the defense asked her why she initially told police that she didn't know there was blood in the car when she put her daughter in the back seat.
And that probably was a day that I was tired and wore out. Mm-hmm. But when I talked to them again, I cleared it up.
Okay. And you told him if you had known there was blood in the car, you never would have put her in there. Is that right?
Right.
And you tell him, I wanted to see if Nate was going to tell me the truth about it with her being in the car. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you know about any other females that Nate was seeing?
No.
So you believe that you were the only female. And you eventually find out that he had been talking to other females.
No.
You didn't figure that out?
No.
Mike, you know me. I'm always looking at a case as a defense attorney, but this witness, her demeanor, screamed credibility to me. But did what she say persuade you?
Absolutely. And it's funny you said scream credibility, because I was thinking when You don't cross-examine somebody who might have missed something, whose answer is going to be, I was tired, I just worked a double shift. I mean, her credibility was very, very strong, I thought, and I thought she was a great witness for the prosecution.
Yeah, she pieced it all together, and we kind of saw her figuring it out with the jury as well. Terry, where was the defense going with this cross? Because they made it seem like this mother should have made tough choices to raise her kid and pay the bills, and I wasn't really a fan.
You know, I wasn't a fan either, Brian, and I think it was a very poor strategy. I think the jury looked at Maria Howard, believed her, thought she was a good mom. She said that she, at first, didn't see the blood, and then she later said she clarified that when she realized what was going on. She was initially tired. But she made the choice to put her child in the car because she had no other choice. She wanted to make sure she picked her child up. She said defiantly, I'm not leaving my child. I'm definitely going to pick her up. And she also wanted to make sure that she made her double shift, showing that she's a very hard worker and that she's supporting herself, she's supporting her family. So I think attacking the girlfriend or the ex-girlfriend was not a wise move. And I think the jury is looking at her as though she's a great mom. She's doing whatever she needs to do to support her family.
Terry, I would agree as well. I think this is a great mom, and I think Mama Pink would agree as well as we look at this case. Thank you all for contributing. We'll continue to follow the Nathaniel Rowland case of the Law and Crime Network and continue. Thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.